Good morning all. Welcome back to my class. Today we are going to learn the rest of the lesson Princess September. Before that, I am going to ask some questions based on this lesson to recall your memory. What was the gift given to the princesses by the king? The gift given to the princesses by the king was a green parrot in a golden cage. Second one. What happened to the parrot of Princess September? The parrot of Princess September was lying dead at the bottom of its golden cage. I am going to read the textbook, so listen carefully. It seemed to Princess September that her little bird had been away a long time. Something might have happened to him. What with hawks and with snares, you never knew what trouble he might get into. Besides, he might forget her, or he might take a fancy to somebody else. That would be dreadful. She wished he were safely back again. Suddenly, September heard a tweet, tweet, just behind her ear, and she saw the little bird sitting on her shoulder. He had come in so quietly and alighted so softly that she had not heard him. I wondered what on earth had become of you, said the princess. I thought you would wonder that, said the little bird. The fact is, I very nearly didn't come back tonight at all. My father-in-law was giving a party, and they all wanted me to stay, but I thought you would be anxious. Under the circumstances, this was a very unfortunate remark for the little bird to make. September felt her heart go thump against her chest, and she made up her mind to take no more risks. She put up her hand and took hold of the bird. The bird suspected nothing, and he was so surprised when she carried him over to the cage, popped him in, and shut the door on him that for a moment he could think of nothing to say. But in a moment or two he hopped up to the ivory perch and said, "What is the joke?" "There is no joke," said September. "But some of Mama's cats are prowling about tonight, and I think you are much safer in there." "Well, just for this once, I don't mind," said the little bird. "So long as you let me out in the morning." He ate a very good supper and then began to sing. But in the middle of his song he stopped. "I don't know what is the matter with me," he said, "but I don't feel like singing tonight." "Very well," said September. "Go to sleep instead." So he put his head under his wing and in a minute was fast asleep. September went to sleep too. But when the dawn broke, she was awakened by the little bird calling her at the top of his voice. wake up," he said. "Open the door of this cage and let me out. I want to have a good fly while the dew is still on the ground." "You are much better off where you are," said September. Let me out," said the little bird, and he tried to slip through the bars of the cage, but of course couldn't. And he beat against the door, but of course he couldn't open it. Then the 8 princesses came in and looked at him. They told September she was very wise to take their advice. They said he would soon get used to the cage and in a few days would quite forget he had ever been free. The little bird said nothing at all while they were there. But as soon as they were gone, he began to cry again. Let me out. "Don't be such an old silly," said September. "I have put you in the cage because I am so fond of you. I know what's good for you much better than you do yourself. Sing me a little song and I will give you a piece of sugar." But the little bird stood in the corner of the cage looking out at the blue sky and never sang a note. "What's the good of sulking?" said September. "Why don't you sing and forget your troubles?" "How can I sing?" answered the bird. "I want to see the trees and the lake and the green rice growing in the fields." I will take you out every day, she said. It's not the same thing, said the little bird. The rice fields and the lake and the willow trees look quite different when you see them through the bars of a cage. The bird wouldn't sing a song and he wouldn't eat a thing. The princess was a little anxious at this and asked her sisters what they thought about it. You must be firm, they said. But if he won't eat, he will die, she answered. That would be very ungrateful of him, they said. He must know that you are only thinking of his own good. If he is obstinate and dies, it will serve him right and you will be well rid of him. September didn't see how that was going to do her very much good. But they were 8 to 1 and all older than she, so she said nothing. Perhaps he will have got used to his cage by tomorrow, she said. And next day, when she awoke, she cried out good morning in a cheerful voice. She got no answer. She jumped out of bed and ran to the cage. She gave a startled cry, for there the little bird lay, at the bottom on his side with his eyes closed, and he looked as if he were dead. She opened the door and putting her hand in lifted him out. She gave a sob of relief, for she felt that his little heart was beating still. wake up, little bird," she said. She began to cry and her tears fell on the little bird. He opened his eyes and saw that the bars of the cage were no longer around him. "I cannot sing unless I am free, and if I cannot sing, I die," he said. The princess gave a great sob. "Then take your freedom," she said. "I shut you in a golden cage because I loved you and wanted to have you all to myself. But I never knew it would kill you. I love you enough to let you be happy in your own way." She threw open the window and gently placed the little bird on the sill. He shook himself a little. "Come and go as you will, little bird," she said. "I will never put you in a cage any more." "I will come because I love you, little princess," said the bird, "and I will sing you the loveliest song I know. I shall go far away, but I shall always come back, and I shall never forget you." He gave himself another shake. "Good gracious me, how stiff I am!" he exclaimed. Then he opened his wings and flew right away into the blue. But the little princess burst into tears, for it is very difficult to put the happiness of someone you love before your own. And with her little bird far out of sight, she felt, all of a sudden, very lonely. When her sisters knew what had happened, they mocked her and said that the little bird would never return. But he did, at last. And he sat on September's shoulder and ate out of her hand and sang her the beautiful songs he had learned while he was flying up and down the fair places of the world. September kept her window open day and night, so that the little bird might come into her room whenever he felt inclined, and this was very good for her, so she grew extremely beautiful. And when she was old enough, she married the king of Cambodia and was carried on a white elephant all the way to the city in which the king lived. But her sisters never slept with their windows open. So they grew extremely ugly as well as disagreeable, and when the time came to marry them off, they were given away to the king's counselors with a pound of tea and a Siamese cat. I am going to explain, so listen carefully. Princess September started worrying about her little bird. He may have been caught in snares, or the hawks could have caught him, or he would have forgotten her. But she wished him to come back safely. Suddenly she heard a tweet sound behind her ear. She saw him sitting on her shoulder. He told September that his father-in-law was giving a party. They all wanted him to stay, so he stayed there. but he thought the princess would be anxious about the bird. September felt nervous and she decided not to be exposed to any type of risk. She took the bird and put it into the cage. The bird could not believe it. He asked what the joke was. The princess told the bird that it was not a joke, and some of her mother's cats were roaming about that night, and she added that the bird would be safer there. The bird agreed to stay inside the cage for only that time, with a condition that she would have to let him out the next morning. The bird had a very fulfilling evening meal and began singing. He expressed that he did not feel like singing that night. September had no problem with that, and rather she advised him to go to sleep instead. Thus he put his head under his wing and went to sleep in about a minute. September too went to sleep. The next morning the bird asked the princess to let him out of the cage, but the princess told him that it was much better where he was. The bird tried to slip through the bars of the cage, but he could not come out. Other princesses came. They told Princess September that the bird would soon get used to the cage, but the bird asked to open the cage. The princess asked the bird to sing, but he stood in the corner of his cage and looking out at the blue sky. He couldn't sing. He wanted to see the trees, the lake, and the green rice growing fields. The bird refused to eat and he wouldn't even sing. This made September a bit concerned and she thought about her sister's advice. Her sister suggested that she should stay strong and unbothered. But September was worried that he would die if he didn't eat. Her sisters thought that the little bird would be very unthankful of him because he must realize that whatever Princess September was doing was for his own good. If he remained stubborn and died, it would serve him right. The next day, Princess September went to the cage. She cried to see the bird as he looked dead, but he was not dead. The princess started weeping. He said that he could not sing unless he was free, and if he could not sing, he would die. She offered him his freedom. She confessed that she locked him in a cage because she loved him and wanted to have him all by herself. She did not know that her actions would kill him. She opened the window and softly placed the bird on the foot of the window. The bird replied that he loved the princess. He would come to her. He would sing the loveliest song for her. He would also never forget her. The little bird slightly shook himself. The bird flew away, but the princess was sad. She burst into tears. The other princesses came to know of it. They made fun of Princess September, saying the bird would never return. But the bird returned. He sat on September's shoulder. He ate out of her hand. He sang her the beautiful songs. The princess kept her window open day and night. The bird could come and go any time he liked. When the little princess grew old enough, she got married to the king of Cambodia, and she rode a white elephant to the city where the king lived. Her 8 sisters, on the other hand, never kept their window open at night, and so they grew up to be ugly and unpleasant. Upon reaching their age, they were given away, or in other words, married to the king's counselors with some tea and a Siamese cat. That's all for the day. Thank you.